Lieutenant Colonel Harry Ziegler was an F-4 pilot with VMF 314 flying low-level ground support missions in Vietnam.
So I went to Chu Lai, which was south of Da Nang.
There.
We had 3 squadrons. When I first got there, I flew with 115, the Eagles, 323, which was the Snakes, and then 314, which is the Black Knights. And I ended up in the Black Knights as the XO after I came back from Saigon. I had been in 314 years before. It was the first F-4 squadron in the Marine Corps. The burner on the afterburner on the Phantom had what were called feathers, and the temperature always stayed the same. So as you went into afterburner and you increased the amount of fuel going in, the feathers just opened further. And so when you ran the power up and down, the feathers would open and close, and it made a completely different sound as they were going up and down as they opened. But you could start the airplane up, go into full 100% and right on up into afterburner, and the airplane would just slowly go up to 100% and all the way up to 100% afterburner, and off you'd go. And it was just a wonderful setup because there was no warm-up time, no screwing around. You just jumped in and went. F-4 was a wonderful airplane. It carried about anything you can think of. So I spent my first 3 months in the group flying with all 3 squadrons. And then in Christmas, TET started in '67. And the way it started for me was there were a bunch of us watching a movie on the back porch of our hooch. Some guy scrounged up some movies. There must have been about 30 guys out there. And all of a sudden these 122 millimeter rockets start coming into the field. And the little trench underneath our hut held like 4 people, and there were 20 guys out there. So the first injuries in the war came for us. 20 guys trying to get in that little hole for 4 people. But it was not a good day for us. One of the squadrons I was flying with, 314, lost 9 airplanes off their flight line. My position was at the secondary command post, which was about a mile from where my hut was. So I grabbed my helmet and my weapon and started running down the road. And I heard this noise go off behind me. And I turned around and it looked like an atomic bomb went off. And what happened was a rocket went into our ammo dump and 5,500 pound bombs went off high order. And I turned around and I laid down in the middle of the road and stuff started flying over the top of my head. I mean, you name it, and it was airborne. So I went on, they gave the all clear, went back. One of the rockets came right down through a bunker and took out 3 officers from the group. 2 of them were Rios. One of them was blinded, he never got his sight back, and 2 of them were killed. But that was the beginning of the war. Well, I got transferred to Saigon because the Marines were losing control, air control at Khe Sanh. There was the Vietnamese had surrounded Khe Sanh and were trying to make it into another Dien Bien Phu. And the Marines only had a little MAC site up there, and the Air Force was running in everything. So they sent 2 Marines, myself and Stoney Mayock. Stoney had been a Blue Angel. And we were roommates down in Saigon, and we went into strike plans in 7th Air Force. And basically, we did all the in-country fragging, which included B-52s, which were, we called them arc-lights, and they carried over 100 500-pound bombs. And then we would take 3 A6s. They carried 36 500-pound bombs. We put 3 of them together, and we called them pinlights. And so, and they, we go out and do carpet bombing just like the B-52s did, only not at the same level. So after being in Saigon, Saigon was still half NVA and half the South Vietnamese and some Americans. They finally pushed them out of the city. I can remember the filling stations near us were on fire from the fighting, and a couple of guys went up on the roof to watch, and the NBA killed them there was a cemetery next to our building, and they were down in the cemetery. When they showed their heads up above, they killed them both. So it was still Indian country down in Saigon when we got there. But the field, the CO of the base, Vietnamese, led the charge and pushed the NVA off the base. He was killed in that charge, and then things were pretty normal, except at least 3 or 4 times a week we had rocket attacks there in Saigon, and got shot up pretty good in Asho in one of the F9s, and somewhere along the line I heard this and I said, oh boy, and then I saw the hydraulics fail, and I lost the rudder control, and I naturally up and out, and it was fine. I got home, landed in the airplane, like I say, from the nose all the way back under it, all the way back under the pilot's seat. It drifted down and underneath, and went right underneath my feet. Didn't get any damage at all to me, and which was all right with me. I never minded that. I had 263 missions. But again, most of our missions were air to ground. They were 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had a trailer out there and 2 F-4s with starting units. And it was just a hop, skip, and a jump out of the trailer. We got the mission, jumped in the airplane, and took off. And it was a solid overcast. Climbed up through it, and to get into Wei Fubai, we went out over the water, let down over the water, and came back in. And we were underneath the clouds. It was not unusual. And went into Wei, and it was Marines in contact with NVA, all low level, all under the clouds, all in the rain. Well, you know, when you're in combat, troops are in contact, different things register with you. Sometimes it might be how the sun looked or how the mountains were, or just in general what the terrain was. But in Wei, it had been raining, and I had never seen greener greens. It was just, I can still remember the palm trees and the green. And there was a little mist. And the mist kind of screwed up our runs because we had to move around and change our headings so we could see where we were going. But we did have the right ordnance because we had what were called snakes. And it was a 500-pound bomb. And when it released from the airplane, fins opened up, 3 of them. And it caused drag on the bomb. And the bomb would slow down and then hit. And the snake eyes give you a chance to get away from the bomb blast and then come back around. But that memory always stuck with me, that we had the right ordnance and how pretty it was, even though it was one of the worst combats the Marine had in the whole war at Wei. We did the mission, and apparently it was okay. We did what they wanted. And about 2 months later, lo and behold, down comes from the South Vietnamese. Stoney and I got the Vietnamese Gallantry Cross with Silver Star from the Vietnam government for that mission. And so we were, surprised and pleased that we got that.